According to our experiment hypothesis, culture plays a significant part in determining how people view the concept of the future and the past. In our experiment, we had two kinds of participants, Chinese and Caucasian. We assumed that Chinese people are deemed more traditional and tend to conceptualize the future as behind them and past in front of them, whereas Caucasian people consider the normal time axis concept, where the future is considered as ahead of them and past is behind them. In our experiment, our question was, does temporal focus differ between Chinese and Caucasian cultures, showing that Chinese people focus more on the past while Caucasian people focus more on the future, and explain the past in front and future in front space-time mappings of the corresponding Chinese and Caucasian groups. According to our research hypothesis, Chinese people tend to focus more on past times and older generations. They're more observant of ancient rituals and they place more value on traditions. Whereas Caucasian people, by contrast, appear to have a greater focus on the future, value economic development, globalization, and technological progress.
The design type of our experiment is within participants design, or within subjects design, since all of the participants of the survey of our experiment will go through the identical questions. The identified independent variable here is a participant's agreement with past-focused or future-focused statements. And the dependent variable is a participant's temporal focus preference. As you can see from the slide here, we actually provide two languages for the participants in the survey. The reason why we provide two languages is that we want to avoid any confusion that may be caused during the survey. These confusions might result from the different language abilities of participants or when a participant is not familiar with the cultural context mentioned. Therefore, the answers we get from the participants can be more valid. We also added another choice, prefer not to say. In addition to the 5 answers given for the original experiment, we added a prefer not to say choice in the survey because although the survey is confidential and anonymous, some of the topics might be troubling for some individuals. We allow this choice to give space for the survey participants to be more comfortable to remain silent on certain topics. To specify on the choice prefer not to say, we will not calculate prefer not to say when we later analyze the data.
Here are our measures. We will evaluate the mean agreement with past and future forecast statements on the temporal forecast questionnaire, separately for Chinese and Caucasian. In this case, we will get 4 groups of data. The first group is the mean agreement with past forecast statements from the group of Chinese. The second group is the mean agreement with past forecast statements from the group of Caucasian. The third group is the mean agreement with future forecast statements from the group of Chinese. And the last group is the mean agreement with future forecast statements from the group of Caucasian. A total of 10 undergraduates will participate, consisting of 5 Chinese and 5 Caucasians. Here are 2 reasons for this design. First, we need opinions from identity groups with different cultural backgrounds. Only when participants include both Chinese and Caucasian can we test whether the hypothesis is correct or not. Second, due to the limited sample size, the way used to avoid bias is to make sure that the number of Chinese people is equal to the number of Caucasian people. Otherwise, the size of each group may largely influence the precision of the experimental results and our analysis of the collected data.
Our procedure is simple. Firstly, develop a temporal-focused questionnaire composed of 21 statements standing for attitudes about past and future-focused topics, which is actually replicated from our side article. If you are interested in the article, you can refer to it in the last slide. Secondly, send our questionnaire to participants and they would demonstrate their level of agreement with each statement on a scale from 1, strongly disagree, to 5, strongly agree. For those who choose prefer not to say, the data will not be counted for that particular question. On the right-hand side, you can see an illustration of part of the questionnaire from participants' visual angle.
In order to analyze the responses we collected from our participants, we first calculated the mean agreement of each question, and then we move on to find the average value of past and future focused statements, separately for Chinese and Caucasians. So here's what we get. Regarding the mean agreement of each question, there is no significant difference between two groups. The agreement level of past focused statements is 2.96 for Chinese and 3.02 for Caucasians, which are very close to each other. But it is also interesting to see that Chinese participants have a higher preferences on the future focused statements compared to the responses of Caucasians.
After the results have been analyzed, we draw a conclusion about the temporal focus difference. As can be indicated from the figure, Chinese and Caucasians showed a similar attitude toward past focus statements, while Caucasians are slightly more in agreement with past focus statements. As for future focus statements, temporal focus varied more obviously between two cultural groups. Chinese are more consistent with future-focused statements than Caucasians are. Unlike the original study in which the experiment confirmed the hypothesis, the result of our experiment overturns our hypothesis and even goes against it. The original study demonstrates that Moroccans and Spaniards differed greatly in views on temporal focus, which is strongly correlated with their culture. While through our experiments, it shows that the Chinese, who seem to place a high value on traditional customs, pay more attention to the development of new things. Caucasians, in our understanding, who seem to have a strong sense of the future, place a relatively high value on the past. Therefore, maybe more experiments from different angles are needed to further explore the space-time mapping similarities, differences, and causes between Chinese and Caucasians.
Here is the reference. Thank you for watching our video.